Zion, what's up?
Recording in progress.
Oops.
By the way.
Sorry?
Oh, we're live on YouTube, just to let you know.
Oh, is it working?
Recording in progress.
Wish I had this going earlier. Does that work, Zion? Can you hear me? Okay.
Yes.
Cool. All right, that's awesome. So we got this live on YouTube. I think we're about to get some blasts out to the community. The text message should go out any second and we'll just join. So we're here in Atlanta with our in-person cohort. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 students with us in Atlanta. We were building an AI assistant app today. Will, welcome in. Good morning, man.
Yeah, good morning. Thanks for having me. Super excited to be seeing you and everybody, and thankful for what you're doing in Atlanta too with your cohort and everything.
Yeah, and you're located up in New York, right?
Yep, you got it. Pretty gray here today. So happy to be inside and on the call, that's for sure.
Nice. Yeah, so actually the guys here were just talking about like all the new templates that you've been working on with some AI companies. Pretty cool to see that y'all are like taking an AI forward approach to Flutterflow. Can you talk to us a bit about like how you see AI interacting with Flutterflow just in the future of that?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think everybody right now is asking the same question, right? And one of the big issues I think a lot of companies are facing is AI is moving, because everybody is trying to take advantage of AI. AI is moving too fast for just one company to take advantage there, right? You know, I feel like every day on Twitter there's an entirely new company created or a new, groundbreaking revolution when it comes to AI. And I think we'll continue to see that at least for the next couple of months. So it is very challenging to say from an AI feature perspective, like we're going to be offering one thing, right? One feature related to AI. And I think a lot of companies are facing that too, right? Their differentiator cannot just be an AI tool, because at the end of the day, AI is moving so fast that what they have coined as like their golden egg is going to be outdated in just a few weeks. And that's something we're trying to plan for at Flutterflow as well, right? If we release this text to page generator, this app creator with AI, and just left it at that, at the end of the day, that's going to be probably old news in 2 months, right? Because ideally every other company is working on a similar sort of style. So we're really going back to the drawing board and taking like a deeper approach to exploring AI as a company and seeing how that can fundamentally change the entire process, not just making it easy to develop an app page, right? But how can we automate as much as possible and use that automation to improve the end product, right? A lot of users on Flutterflow are trying to learn the best practices for establishing their backend architecture, right? And if we could utilize AI to make recommendations or whatever it may be there, help guide them through those steps, that's just another value add to our users. Or if people are looking to create copy for their app or imagery for their app, or just need some sort of inspiration, the same exact thing could be said. So I think we'll see that with most companies, not only in the space we're in, but just globally, as companies continue to iterate with AI. But yeah, I think I can't really speak towards exactly where we're headed because it's changing so fast, but excited to release, the big AI gen that we're gearing up towards, and I'm sure you'll see other AI related features in the future.
Yeah. It's super cool how fast you guys move. Like we will make a course on a particular module, and then 2 weeks goes by, we teach the course and we're like, oh my God, it's changed. So it's actually really cool to see that y'all are continuously improving the product. You guys move so quickly, building new features. So that's been really, really cool. I mean, yeah, across like our students, like everyone has different skills and weaknesses. Like some people are really good at building UI with Flutterflow. Some people are really good at designing databases. Some people are really good with the API integration. But it seems like progressively we can use AI to like bridge the gap, right? So someone who's really good at UI design can put together a beautiful UI, but they may struggle with like designing a database, right? And actually designing business logic. Like that's something where like a backend developer may have more experience.
For sure.
So like, is it part of the vision to kind of bridge the gap between people who have never like built full stack apps? Like are we going to bridge the gap between like, AI and databases, AI and APIs? Like, is that something that's in the future of Flutterflow?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think one of the key differentiators when it comes to Flutterflow, at least from our opinion, is that we see Flutterflow as a platform, not just a tool for development. So I think you've seen that in the way we've structured the platform. So we have the architecture side, we have the storyboarding, we have all these integrations, and we're really trying to make it a full scale platform. And so I think with that, though, we don't plan, at least as of now, to go into that kind of like back end space. I think a lot of other companies are trying to do that. At least in my opinion, they're not doing a great job at it, because at the end of the day, how as a company do you expect to compete or upsell services for something like AWS or Firebase or all these other very established, backend service providers? And I think a lot of people hit that barrier with other tools, right? I think that's one of the biggest reasons a lot of people get cut off at these other like no code tools that they prefer to use, because the backend that company has put together simply just doesn't scale with their goals. And that's something that we never want our users to face. And we've created the platform so far so that you don't face that issue, right? You can export your code and do whatever you need to do with it. You can build on top of your product. You can use a multitude of backends via API calls and other things. So that said, I think when it comes to the API side, our company is very focused on obviously the current user experience, which is that application building from more of like a front end perspective. There's all, that whole other world of back-end development with, the security side and the architecture and the custom cloud functions and all of that. I think that will be, that's at the end of the day, that's not what we're trying to focus deeply on. We'll offer integrations in those services, but I think it's on, for example, Firebase, right? We would let Firebase really take a deep dive into the AI side of things if they would like to do that, right? Or Supabase. Supabase is a great example. They have a launch week coming up at the beginning of April. Definitely tune in for that as one of our partners. And who knows, right? Maybe they'll release some AI stuff, and then for us, it's just an added benefit to our users, especially as a partner. So yeah, I think we'll let other companies focus deep into what they can provide, and we'll continue to offer AI related services. And if we can close the gap, great, right? Oh, it looks like you're muted.
As someone who's like had to code mobile apps for the last like 7 years, like it's just incredible to see y'all have thought through every developer pain point that I had as someone writing code. Like Firebase was going through a migration between a real-time database back in like 2015 to Firestore. That's when I left it. I was like, I don't want to move to Firestore. I don't want to deal with Firebase. It was just, there was a lot of clunkiness. Revenue Cat was really hard to implement, with code, having different treatments, Firebase remote config. Like those are features you see over time as you build a mobile app. Like, hey, I need to A/B test my onboarding. Hey, I need to remotely control based on the launches I have going out. say I'm launching in a specific newsletter. I want my language to be catered toward that person. You learn those things after the fact. But now with Flutterflow, you guys have already thought through like all the business cases, most of the business cases that like a mobile app entrepreneur would encounter. So I think that's beautiful. I got a little bit nervous when I saw the AI gen because I was like, damn, I hope it doesn't become way too easy to build an app, because then I feel like it would dilute the quality of the apps that actually made it out there. Because then it's like people could just spin up apps really quickly. So I think having like a responsible level of friction matters, so that entrepreneurs are still applying strategy, product thinking, design thinking, and we're not making it too easy to launch an app into the App Store. Otherwise, we'll see what's happening today, where like everybody is building a thin layer around GPT-3 and launching their own version of it. So I think that's cool that y'all are thinking through the entrepreneurship process as well, not just trying to get as many apps out there as possible.
For sure. Yeah. I think that even ties into like coming from a design background, right? Originally, I started as a graphic designer and web developer. And I think one of the key things we've seen, maybe not in web development per se, but graphic design especially, and this was one of my biggest frustrations and my like current fears for the low code space, is that a lot of graphic design, I think the price and the quality plummeted when tools like Canva came out, because there was a little bit of a barrier, right? But then this expectation, this expectation came of, okay, originally I could do some sort of like branding or logo kit, right? And that would take maybe a couple of weeks, and a traditional graphic designer would charge a couple $1,000s for something like that, right? It would be a lot of time put into that. And I think now you see this time and time again. I mean, people are posting on socials all the time, right? Of, watch me create this branding kit, and people are expecting these logos or whatever it may be for just a couple $100s, right? Or like Fiverr and Upwork and all of these, which are great platforms, right? But used in the right use case. And so I think Flutterflow as a company, we have a responsibility, and this is something that I think a lot of our team is aware of, is keeping that balance, right? Of, look, just because we've provided tools to make app development easier and faster and cheaper doesn't mean the quality of work should go down. It doesn't mean the price of app development should go down, right? These are tools that we're empowering the end user to utilize, but ideally they should be putting in the time to focus on other areas, right? If it's easier to develop an app, spend more time learning design principles, because that will make everything come together so much quicker. And so that's something that we're recognizing, especially as we expand the community and the experts program and all of these things, because we want to be very sure, exactly what you said, that people aren't going out and saying, here, I can make an app for $500, right? And we want to make sure that expectation is set, especially for these agencies that are really like spending a lot of time and diving deep into these tools.
Yeah, 100%. We actually have like some students who want to like start freelancing, start building apps. We get a lot of requests to build apps, and we do get that objection, like, hey, it should only take a few hours with Flutterflow, but hey, it also took us 8 years to learn how to build proper onboarding flows, how to create like typography systems through actually coding things. So a lot of that knowledge, is developed over time. It's not just about throwing an app together on Flutterflow. It's about actually thinking strategically about the solution that you're building, and not necessarily just the technology. We just got a question from Torrance, who's actually here in person with us. Are there plans to create a Flutterflow mirror app that'll allow users to test their projects directly on their device to eliminate the requirements to install an emulator? And I imagine you're talking about like test flight, stuff like that.
Yeah, that's a great question. One workaround, let's say immediately, that I've used is just web publishing. I know not all the features are available, but technically, and I also recognize that your temporary domains, depending on your account, are also, you can reach at max, right? So just, use that wisely. But if you need to, and this is something we've done time and time again, is just create your application and publish it on a temporary domain. And then you can see the majority of features in work. Obviously, maybe some layout issues might occur depending on your browser that you're using on your phone, but that's a good base to test features. Now, when it comes to a mirroring app or something like that, we have explored that. There is an issue on the Apple side. And as we know, Apple is very, very specific about the applications that they release on the App Store. And that's been an issue, I think, for tons of companies. And that's actually something we face as a company too. For some reason, there were issues in which they don't allow like remote code push. So they don't want live updates occurring on an app, essentially, right? Like things changing actively, because then they can't regulate it. And so that was an issue we faced, where if we were going to push an application onto somebody's device, we kept getting the application denied, this mirroring application. And this was built several months ago, right? So we kind of put that project on pause as we focused on other things, because we didn't think it was, essential to the app development there. But it is something that we'll maybe explore again in the future. So technically the project is like there, it's just on pause because we were facing so many issues. But yeah, that's a great question. Definitely trying to improve test mode and run mode and things like that too. I think you saw that the new test mode with a longer test period. So hopefully things like that work to improve your experience.
Yeah. Anything else on that, Torrance? Cool. Yeah, I mean, to everybody out in the audience, like, do not take the like one-click app store deploy for granted. Like, I have spent so many hours of my career just dealing with uploading, getting rejected, uploading, getting rejected. Like, so much of my life has gone into that when I saw the one-click app store deploy, like, it was just such a blessing. At PrizePicks, we're a daily fantasy sports app, we're constantly pushing updates to meet like the game, like the upcoming NBA game or the NBA finals or whatever. And like, we get in scrambles with Apple where they deny us for accidentally leaving something in the screenshot or something in the text, or something just would go wrong. And you'd have to deal with expedited reviews and then building the app. And if I accidentally named my app the same thing or kept the version number the same as the previous version, I'd get rejected. So it's a huge, huge, huge blessing to have that one-click deployed app store.
Yeah,
cool.
Sure.
Riley's got a question. Will, I own a SaaS tool. One major paradigm shift I've been thinking about with GPT is the idea that GPT is almost like a replacement for UI. Like, instead of my customers going in and clicking buttons and scrolling through pages, they can just talk to an assistant who just executes all the actions in our code on their behalf. So essentially, language is the new UI. What do you think about that? Can you think of UI UX aspects that can't just be replaced by a voice-based assistant?
That is a great question, Riley. And one of the things I would immediately look at is, how often do you use your Alexa app or Siri? I can't tell you the last time. Actually, I can. The last time I've seen somebody use Siri was to ask for the weather. That's my girlfriend. Beyond that, I haven't seen anybody ask Siri something. Alexa, I have an Alexa sitting in my apartment, and to be honest with you, I don't use it, only for maybe turning on the TV or something like that. So I think there's a very strong difference between what is like popular now and kind of the hype train, similar to what you could look at, like, I hate to say this, but like crypto and Web3, and how everyone tried to look for like as many opportunities to use this as possible, and we're just throwing it at anything and just saying, this is the new way to do it. This is going to change ticketing, for example, right? Everybody started making a ticketing app for NFTs. Have you used an NFT ticketing app at large scale? Probably not. I don't know if it's because no one did it right or what. But I think, I mean, that's just a case study, a small case study or example. But I think a lot of people like this idea of ChatGPT and the conversational interface. But I think at some point it will get old, right? For example, like Wii Fit. Everybody thought Wii Fit and using a Wii was the coolest thing ever. Why would I play games just with a controller? I can move my body, I can do all this stuff. Or it's same for the Connect, right? Everybody thought I can control my screen with this Connect. Now nobody uses anything like that, right? It's changed
Yeah.
so much. So I think it'll be the same with this as well.
Yeah, for sure. Someone said, I could see ChatGPT being a component of pages like an FAQ or an about page. You get to ask your own questions about a service or a company. I would say that's something that we're trying to do at Ambitious Labs. Like, we're trying to build an AI powered learning experience where, like, a lot of the questions that we get are kind of repetitive. We get the same questions like, hey, how do you go about, you know, launching your app to the store? How do you go about designing an onboarding flow? How do you wireframe something? And so we've created all this content in our course, and our coaches are being asked some of the same questions consistently. So we're trying to create a resource-backed AI chatbot that can help people build their apps without having to jump on a call with the coach, and then we can refer back to kind of our glossary. So we don't see AI as we still have to have that human touch. People aren't going to just buy an AI bot to teach them how to build an app. We still have to, as humans, teach them, but we can use AI to empower us instead of putting all the burden on our coaching team and our ops staff. How can we use AI to create more arms and legs rather than trying to clone a bunch of brains? If that makes sense. That's how we think about it at the labs.
I think that's a perfect analogy. One of my intuitions is that I've seen a lot of people moving towards automation with AI. I saw a tweet the other day, and it was saying how a guy asked ChatGPT to list 1,000 Shopify stores, then look at the Shopify store, generates an email for improvements based on the niche, draft up an email, auto send the email. And I think because that will be so accessible to so many people with the new plugins that were released and everything, I feel like there is going to be a shift away from automation, and the people that can really specialize and do critical thinking. Exactly what you said, right? Use your brain versus just having a million arms and legs to do different things. I think those are the people that will truly win and truly be the most valuable at the end of the day. Right? We're facing this awkward back and forth between summary. I posted something on LinkedIn about this where it was a lot of people are creating tools to create summaries, and a lot of people are creating tools to lengthen text, and we're kind of in this back and forth, right? How many years will it take for everything you read to be written by an AI? But then on the flip side, just summarizing what an AI wrote. I think there's a balance, exactly what you said. You need longer explanations for UI UX design versus maybe fixing something in your backend architecture, right? That could be detected by AI and improved.
Sure. Let me just parse the room for some questions real quick.
Yeah.
Caleb Martinez here in Atlanta asks, who is the ideal user for Flutterflow?
That is a great question. I think that is almost a trick question, because there's different user groups for Flutterflow that have different purposes. And again, that's why we're building a platform, not a tool. If we were building a tool, it would just be for designers or just be for developers. But one of the things we released in our last update were role-based access. And so now with Flutterflow, you could have developers that just go in and set up your backend in architecture with Firebase and can only access API calls, whereas designers can only edit pages. Then we have this stakeholders or shareholders that only have commenting access and can go through. So from our perspective, we're trying to reach two audiences. We have the developer community, which is really important to us, right? At the end of the day, Flutterflow isn't for building your application, it's for building the source code. That's how we want you to think about Flutterflow, because at the end of the day, you can export your source code at any time. You can build on top of this. So don't think of it as a Wix builder, right? Where you don't know what to do with your Wix site after you built it. You're stuck on Wix. You built a Wix website. No, this is building a Flutter application, and we're giving a platform to do that. So
I actually get that question a lot.
What was that?
I get this objection a lot from when I talk to entrepreneurs and I'm like, hey, we train on how you can build your, not an MVP, we train on how to build a real product using a no-code tool. And instantly you get a lot of these entrepreneur egos that are like, oh, no-code tool, I'll be locked in. I can't hand it off to a developer. I'm constrained.
Mhm.
I need something scalable. Mind you, these people haven't gotten their single user, but they're already thinking about 1 million users.
Yeah.
And I'm like, hey, hold on, hold your horses. Flutterflow isn't a no-code tool where you're locked in. You're actually writing code using a drag and drop builder.
Yeah.
You can hand it off to a developer at any time. You can one-click export it once you achieve that scale you're looking for, and then run with it from there. And we do this at, the labs. We export code. We have an app that now we maintain from GitHub. We just use Flutterflow to build the UI, and then we point it back to GitHub and we manipulate code there. So it's even got that GitHub integration where like someone who knows how to write Flutter can just go check out a version of your Flutterflow app, do some custom integration, and check it back in to your Flutterflow project. And now I have full control over it again. And that's the most beautiful experience.
Yeah, we have a funny story as a company in its more early days. We took a Flutterflow application, exported the code, and we sent it as a test to a Flutter developer with a application that was written, by hand as well. And we asked them for their thoughts on the application. Of course, they came back and said, maybe you could improve the backend architecture and how you do actions here or your naming conventions. But at no point did they ever realize that the application was not written by hand, that it was completely made in Flutterflow. And I think that's a testament to the amazing work that our engineering team has done in the code generator and everything that's there. I think given your background, this is a question I have for you, I guess. And you highlighted a very good point, which was the people that are focusing on their 5,000 user versus getting the first 200 users. And
Right.
the number of founders, I mean, your background and my background, I think we can both attest to the fact that so many founders are thinking, oh, what happens if I have to redesign my app when I have 50,000 users? Well, first of all, good luck getting the 50,000 users. Like that's the starting point, right? Good luck finding product market fit. The number of founders that never find product market fit because they're so focused on this like end goal, that's the real issue. And having a no-code tool allows you to iterate so quickly. Before I joined Flutterflow, the application I was working on, the startup I was working on, my co-founder and I were able to pivot, 4 to 5 different times in order to successfully fundraise. And we would look back at founders that were in the same cohorts that were still trying to find an agency overseas, develop their full application, right, for thousands of dollars, tens of thousands of dollars. And we were able to learn Flutterflow in a month and build our first MVP. And we were the first ones to have an application out of all the founders, right? Tell me that's smart versus going and saying, oh, I have, I wrote this all in React Native and I have this native code. Like nobody cares about that if you don't have any users to show for and you have no product. So
A lot of founders even think like VCs won't invest in a particular tech stack. I've raised money. None of my investors care what my tech stack is. They just want a product that works. That's a huge thing too. Oh, my investors won't invest if it's not React or React Native. Oh, Flutter, I heard it's Google and Facebook's better than Google. Like, oh my goodness, the objections I hear are crazy. And so we got to drive home the point that focus on your first user. Tech stack doesn't matter. Getting a working product matters a lot more than the tech.
for sure.
Riley says, to Alim's point, there are infinite number of ideas. Only some will connect with actual customer desires. I'm wondering if you guys have thought about helping Flutterflow builders with validating their ideas with customers, maybe pre-launch surveys or other features that are more customer research oriented, or maybe growing the expert community to include this expertise. If Flutterflow doesn't help with this, do you guys have partners who excel at this you recommend? Interesting.
That is a fantastic question. You read my mind, actually. And so, given my background, I was very founder oriented. I've always been creating businesses, agencies, stuff like that. And so, one of the biggest issues I found was it's great that founders find a way to build an app, but if they don't know how to do something with that app, if they don't know how to get their first user, if they don't know how to iterate on the product, they're going to fail at the end of the day. The number of people and I'm sure you see this exact same thing. The number of people that claim they're building an MVP, I have this exact same issue coming from a design background. The number of people that think they're building an MVP and build out the full product, I mean, unbelievable. I would say 80% of people that get started with an idea and say, oh, I'm just building the MVP, they've built the end product, right? They can't go back and iterate, or else they're starting from scratch, essentially. And that, I think, is a massive issue. So I think in this case, for Flutterflow, one of my goals is to find a way to empower founders, because that is a large chunk of our user group. And a lot of these other tools out there don't do a good job of empowering founders, right? It's very technical, or it's just like, hey, you're not technical at all. Let's kind of baby you through how to use this platform. And I think if so many founders are going to rely on Flutterflow to build their business, build their dreams, I think we need to do a good job of providing additional resources. So one of my goals this year is to push out content related to business or startup like information, right? So, okay, you have an app, now what? How do you get to your first 20 users, 100 users, right? How do you iterate? What's the best way to take in feedback? And if you don't have any experience as like a product manager or product owner, what do you do, right? How do you iterate with a backlog and features? How do you rate those features? All of these different things. Yeah, App Store search. That's a fantastic point, right? Like keyword optimization and App Store optimization. There's so many things to focus on. And it's always hard for a founder, because I think the first thing they do is go, okay, I have my app. Okay, I either need to do a mailing list or just make 10 social media accounts and just start running ads. And I don't think that's the right way to do it, at least in my opinion. So I think there's a lot of ways we can help founders just by like giving them the right information. The last thing I'll say before I cut myself off, Shopify is a great case study of that. One of the things the Shopify founders recognized was that the majority of their early support questions were nothing about the Shopify platform. It wasn't, how do I set up a catalog or how do I add a product? It was, what do you think of my business idea? I've seen success on Instagram. How should I optimize my site for Instagram? It was all business related questions. And I think that is that shows that a lot of these people just need a little bit of guidance, or just want to hear it themselves that, okay, this is a good step to go, and I'm confident enough to go down that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We do a lot of that. Like, so the way our kind of system works is like, we have this boot camp where we take someone from an idea to building an app in 3 weeks. And a lot of people come in with their own app ideas, right? And they're fantastic ideas and they're brilliant. And these people are really driven and passionate. They just kind of lack the structure that they need. Hey, first, go get some market research done, identify your problem statement, then come in and design a really basic wireframe that can get to the core problem of the core pain point of your user. Design a really simple, maybe authentication page, a quick onboarding, and then just 1 or 2 pages that actually just execute the value. We get to that point, and we'll see kind of where we evolve from there. That's where we're about to be. Our students are going to have like their first kind of prototypes done. We're going to hopefully try to be alongside them, get that first 20 users, use App Store search, use community launches, and help them get to that point. But a lot of what I see is people come in with these large ideas, and yeah, really just kind of coach them in, bring them closer to like exchanging value with someone. Once you start exchanging value, then magical things happen, right? People start talking to you, you start exchanging money, and that's when like more beautiful things happen, where people will tell you, hey, these are my pain points. And since we're like kind of transactionally attached with money, I feel a lot more trust back and forth and like the exchange of value. So like, that's where we're trying to get all of our students to go.
Nice.
Someone said, yeah, we see Storyboard features in beta. Are you able to give us more info on the expectation of Storyboard in the future?
So Storyboard, we listed that in beta simply because we recognize there might be some issues. Obviously, we can do our best to push that out and have it be ready to go from day one. But at Flutterflow, we're one of our like key values is what we consider V0. And it's just getting it out there and getting as much feedback as possible. And I think that definitely aligns with maybe what your students might go through, or just anyone building an app. Just build something that's good enough to get out there, because at the end of the day, you might think you know everything, but you don't. And so just get it live, get it accessible from users, and see what they want. And that's the perfect example of the storyboard, right? We just got it out there. We wanted to see how people interacted with it, what they saw, what they liked, what they didn't like. And of course, we can iterate as much as possible versus spending 6 months building the perfect storyboarding feature and it being completely the wrong direction. So it is beta, and it's just going to remain beta until we feel it's in a good spot to take that title off. But it doesn't necessarily mean anything.
Right on. Will, appreciate your time. I think we'll just take one last question and we'll wrap up for the day.
Awesome.
Anybody have anything else? Yeah, so this is actually something that I like to talk about as well. Like Bradley says, to be honest, I've been reluctant to launch on Apple, Google due to the 30% fee on in-app purchases, I'm assuming. I'm building with Flutterflow because I at least want that option. Can you educate a cheapskate noob like me why I shouldn't care, or how maybe a smart entrepreneur consider these large platform fees when web apps don't have those fees? And just to tag on to that, like I feel the same exact way. I love mobile apps because I think they're a very overlooked market, and there's tons of opportunity to solve problems there. But yeah, and also mind you, it's 15% for the first million on Apple, and then 30% after your first million. So if you can get to 1 million, I think you have other problems to solve. Just also my 2 cents.
Yeah.
15% is okay. I would go to market with 15%. And then after you get to 1 million, there are ways you can optimize by using web funnels and others, just to put that out there. But from a platform perspective, and for a company that's mobile app first, yeah, like how are you thinking about this, Will?
Yeah, that's a big question we have. And I think one of the consistent asks we get as a company is like Stripe integration for reoccurring subscriptions. I know this is kind of a side note, but right, a lot of people are making web apps and they'd prefer to charge subscriptions through Stripe versus RevenueCAD if they're doing it online. That's actually an issue with Flutter and Stripe's Flutter package. Flutterflow, our engineering team, actually had to write a custom package essentially to integrate Stripe payments as you see in Flutterflow now. So that's one of the barriers we have to enabling like a web SaaS product from a Flutterflow perspective. But I think when it comes to the App Store, the biggest thing you need to think is scale, right? You're probably like, if you're looking to build an app with 500 users and expect to have an amazing business from this and run a ton of revenue through it, it's probably not the best place to start. The App Store is not probably a good place to start, at least in my opinion. So you need to think about it from a scale perspective, right? These companies that are charging 99 cents or running ads, the other thing is like ads aren't going to bring you a ton of revenue. I've worked with a bunch of people that just say, oh, my revenue strategy is running ads. And if you look at the revenue that you get from Google AdMob, I think it's like 60,000 views or something like that, 100,000 views for like $5, right? So you're not really making a ton there. So I think this is just something you have to deal with. It's a sunk cost. That's the expectation. So if you're going to go into the App Store market, just know it is what it is. It'd be the same thing if you try to use Stripe and said, how do I get around the 3% Stripe fee? That's just one of those things that you're using the platform. That's one of the guidelines. And maybe that'll change with the new App Store side loading market that's going to be launching in the EU for the App Store because of the new regulations and laws there. So I don't know how that's going to carry out in the US, but maybe something to look at.
Yeah, really good. All right, y'all, we'll wrap up. Have a good Saturday. Will, really appreciate you taking the time. We all love Flutterflow here. Like, I think the group that we have here in person in Atlanta is diehard Flutterflow. When we all met each other, we were like, it was the bond was instant. And there's a lot more of us here in Atlanta. We're actually trying to get a Flutterflow meetup group going. And yeah, we're all excited about what y'all are doing, and we really appreciate you taking the time.
Yeah, Of course. Feel free to reach out at any time, right? I'm on Twitter, LinkedIn, the Flutterflow website community. And yeah, really appreciate you doing this, and good luck to everybody building their applications.
See you, Will. See you, everybody.